We go. All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1,000,000 Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Steve Ramona. Steve, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Kevin, I really appreciate you having me on and talking to your audience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This has been really cool. Well, first of all, I want to start off by giving a shout out to Marcus Newcomb because Marcus was the one that introduced you and I, Steve. Without him, we may have never even met. And what's really cool, I mean, when you and I connected for the first time, I don't know what it felt like for you, but for me, it felt like you and I had known each other for years right from the get-go, just
Great.
because that we had this mutual friend in Marcus and stuff. And I've already had the opportunity to be on your podcast, and now here we are having you as a guest on mine. And I've just really appreciated getting to know you and find out what you're all about, because you and I definitely subscribe to the same core values and stuff. And we're all about making an impact in this world and just using our God-given gifts and abilities to be able to do that. And so I just want to kind of start off by turning it over to you and just like let us set a little bit of context here. And I want to have you share with the folks, what you're all about, what you do, and who you serve, and what inspires you to do what you do in this world, Steve, and make the impact that you're making.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Well, I'm a podcast host for Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I started way back in the day, 18, 19 years old. My family launched a health club and they asked me to come work. Summertime, I needed a job. We
Okay.
talked earlier, before this show. So I started working, but I started meeting a bunch of people because you're checking them in, you're checking them out, you're checking them in. You have to build relationships. And we were a health club that really believed in customer service. Say people's names. If you don't know their name, look on the computer, go, hey, Kevin, welcome to the club. Hey, Kevin, have a great day. But then those conversations became, hey, Kevin, how's your grandbaby? Hey, Kevin, enjoy your vacation. I'll see you in a week. Where the conversations and the relationship got deeper.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking one or two people. I'm talking 10, 20, 30, hundreds of people. Because we probably had 1,000 people walking in the gym every day. I didn't see all of them.
Uh-huh.
But what it led to was the ability to meet my cousin, say, hey, you're the operations guy. You walk through the gym every day, look at things, make sure they're working, but talk to people,
Yeah.
have conversations.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly at a young age how building your network, your connections is so valuable. We became one of the top health clubs because of that. We knew everybody's names. I go out to dinner and friends, and hey, there's the Royal Quartz guy. That was the name of our club. Hey, there's the Royal Quartz guy. Hey, Steve from Royal Quartz. And it was such a blessing because we knew we were impacting people.
Yeah. Yeah.
When people
Yeah.
come in and work out and they're having a bad day, they're like, hey, I get to see Steve or one of our employees. We're going to smile and just say, how you doing today?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all people need.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where my career started. And I told you a story before the show. I'll tell the audience now. So Tony used to come in. He's a financial advisor. We became friends. He called me kid. He was probably middle 50s. I was 19. So I was a kid. And he came in one day and threw a book at me, The Wealthy Barber.
Okay.
He said, can you do me a favor? Can you read that book? Yeah. I said, I'm coming back next Tuesday, a week from now, going on vacation. Make sure you read it. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll read it. It was a small book, 50, 60 pages. So he comes back, and of course, when he walks in, he goes, so tell me about the book. I said, you're telling me, or the book's telling me to save 10% of my income and put it away and don't touch it. That's exactly it, kid. Start doing that right away. Well, back then, I was making $3 an hour, minimum wage, $4. And this is
Okay.
78, 79,
Yeah.
which, then was a lot of money.
Sure.
But here's the cool thing that happened. I looked at that and I'd peek at it once in a while, but I didn't touch it. I left it in there. 10 years later, I looked and it was $68,000
Wow.
in this account. It's
Wow.
exactly what I said. I'm 28. I just won the lottery.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't, but you
Felt
feel
like
like
it.
you was, yeah, I did. Of course, you spend some of it when you see it, which is what he was afraid of, but I didn't spend it all. But I did one thing that really changed my life. This is big. I called him.
Mhm.
Said, Tony, man, I appreciate it. I want to tell you what happened. can I give you $1,000? That was your job. I want to pay you. You gave me advice. He goes, no, no, kid. Still called me kid 10 years later. I said, why not? Look what you've done for me. I'll just take some of that and give it to you. He goes, you don't know what you did for me. People would take my advice and not run with it. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you did. And when you did, I'm sure in the last 10 years or years that he worked, an opportunity door opened because you listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you a gift and the gift came back somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin, I said, this is what business should be all about.
Yeah.
And I built a wide network because of the health club. I mean, people would make jokes, Kevin. How are you going to get married? I'm like, what do you mean, how am I going to get married? What kind of question is that? He goes, you know so many people, you're going to have to rent Candlestick Park or a football stadium just to fit everybody in to invite them. Of course, they're half kidding, but I just developed a lot of connections by building great relationships.
Yeah.
Nothing more than just that.
Yeah.
That's where it all started.
Yeah. Wow. So how old were you when you were working at the club? Was it 18 or so? You were 18 years
19,
old?
just out of high school.
19, right out of high school. Okay. Okay. So you really had this experience at a young age that just taught you the importance and the value of right relationships and stuff, you know. And and so, you know, I didn't I mean, I've been doing what I do for 30 years. I just turned 60. So it took me till my late 20s, early, or, 30s to like get to this place where I understood that lesson, you know. And you were years ahead of me. And so, and
I was blessed, Kevin. I was blessed.
For sure. And and I'll tell you, and I mean, my journey has been my journey, and I wouldn't change one bit of it. I mean, our journeys are what got us to where we are right here, right now. And so what we perceived as the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, it's all what got us to right here, right now, and made us the people that we are and stuff. And so for you, how did you get so now is podcasting your business, or do you have a business behind your podcast?
So podcast is my tool for my business. I do have a business behind that. Ramex Development. We're a consulting firm, but we have economic developments. We use renewable energy across the country, and we're trying to do internationally. We're running out of power. AI is taking our power, crypto mining. We just talked to a crypto miner this morning. They're in need of power. So renewable energy is more important now than ever. Mm-hmm. So through my network of all these years and through the network I built through my podcast, I built a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
And I'm able to help so many people, help them find funding, help them find land, help them find partners, and consult them on their business. And it's, again, another incredible blessing through my podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so how long have you been hosting your podcast now, Steve?
October of 2022. So I'm coming on 3 years here next couple of weeks.
Okay. And how many episodes have you guys released?
802.
Wow. 802. Wow. That is so impressive. What has been the most rewarding thing for you from hosting the podcast?
There's so many. The thing I didn't learn until the last 6 months is how many people are helping me.
Okay.
Those guests are helping me, maybe through the podcast, after the podcast, the advice, the resources, their books, their connections. Because when you do a podcast and you do, most are good, you're building relationships for 35, 45 minutes. So it opens the door to ask me, or me ask them for help, support, whatever it may be. And a quick story we talked about before the show was I was diagnosed in May with diabetes. I had to get on medicine. I was scared. I've lost friends with diabetes, died. And man, I jump on a podcast, Eric Collette, shout out to him. He's become a really good friend of mine. And he's in the healthcare space and he helps people with brain and dementia, but he knows about diabetes, and he's just been around. He's just a great resource.
Yeah.
And my chiropractor is the other person who threw me a book. Again, somebody else threw me a book called Eat Stop Eat, and it's a fasting 1 day a week, and
Okay.
that's what I do. Since May, I've lost 45 pounds now. We're in
Wow.
September.
Congrats.
So that's, thank you, 4 months.
Yeah.
But I'm off all my medicine. No more
Wow.
diabetes. I've
Wow.
dropped my A1C. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have a podcast
Yeah.
and treated people right. Because you
Totally.
can have a podcast, and still pitch people and do the wrong things. But
Yeah.
it's such a wonderful tool for your business. I think everybody should have a podcast, but that's just me. I know not everybody will.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I have a friend of mine, Nikki, who he's been a guest on over 800 podcasts.
Wow.
And when he came on my podcast afterwards, he told me, he's because the same thing. We finished the interview and then we're having a conversation and stuff. And he's like, Kev, he's like, what you do here is so abnormal. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he's like 99% of the time when I do a podcast interview, and as soon as we stop recording, the guest or the host is pretty much like, okay, thanks a lot. Have a great day. See ya. And just like that, it's done. And their goal was to record a podcast episode. Their goal was not to create a relationship. And and my goal, like yours, and when I host the $1 Million Relationships podcast, as the title might allude to, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I do it. And
Yeah.
I want
It's
to
powerful.
create new relationships. I want to help make new relationships for other people. And that's the whole joy from doing the podcast. That I mean that's what jazzes me. And so what are some what I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. What are some results? So you shared a couple of benefits that you've personally got from hosting the podcast and stuff. What are some results that have come for maybe some guests that you've had on the podcast that would have never happened if not for you hosting your podcast and stuff? Maybe
6 months ago,
relationships that came from it or what have you.
yeah. Well, here's another reason I love podcasts. It's not talked about a lot. I just talked about, I do a free workshop every month. We talked about evergreen. An evergreen audience means when you record a podcast, it sits on that platform, whatever it is, forever.
Yeah.
Some may go back 5 years later, 6 months later, whatever. And I got an email from a coach, and he said, my God, thank you so much. And he's still going on. I'm like, yeah, we had a good podcast. What happened? Well, at the end, he tells me, you know what? Somebody listened to the podcast and reached out and signed up as a client for $10,000 for my coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the kicker. This was May or March of this year. We recorded the show March of 2024.
Wow.
The show was a year old. The person went through my YouTube channel and found something that caught their eye.
Yep.
They watched it and then reached out. Now, that doesn't happen all the time.
Sure.
But it's happened.
Yeah.
And obviously, it did happen with this guy, this coach.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're right. You end up creating this body of work over time, that now, you're at 800 episodes plus and stuff, and you've got this body of work. And for one, I heard a stat, and I don't know, I can't remember the exact number, but most podcasts never get more than, how many ever episodes released. And I think the number is like 10 or less or something like that. And so to have 800, and I'm not even half of many as you. I'm a little over 300 at this point. But to have 300, but to have 800, that shows commitment to the podcast. And people see that and they're like, wow. I mean, because I get that all the time, and I can only imagine you do too. That when people see that, like, wow, you got 800 episodes in the can, that they're like, man, Steve, you are really committed to this podcast and stuff. And when people know that we're committed, then they'll commit. Like, heck yeah, he's just asking me to come on and do an interview one time. Heck yeah, I'll do that, because I mean, I want to be a part of this, And so I want to make sure. I feel like I
So true.
might have cut you off, and you were wanting to share another experience that's come from his. No, okay, okay.
Well,
So
no, there's many. I mean, the thing that we want to keep in mind, podcasting is not a TV show or a radio show or a movie.
yeah,
That's the script where you go track one, track two. That's a whole different ball game. And I think people think, well, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to get sponsors. I'm going to make a ton of money on it. Only the top 5% will do that. And they're name brands: Joe Rogan, Lewis
yep,
Howes,
yeah,
people like that have a brand and a huge following. I don't care. I've got 10,000. I just looked at it today, so I know 10,032 subscribers on YouTube. It's fantastic.
sure,
You know what's more important? It's the impact.
yes,
I get to impact 10,000 people. Am I making my no? Do I want to? If I can, I would. But what is my focus? And what is your focus as a podcast host? To impact people.
yeah,
The money will come somewhere, somehow.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because my buddy Brad Costanzo, he was the one 3.5 years ago. I was visiting him at his place in San Diego. We had gone out for lunch one day, and that's at lunch. He tells me, he's like, Kevin, you should seriously consider hosting a podcast. And of course, at that time, hosting a podcast couldn't have been further off my radar. I mean, it was nowhere to even be found. And but I knew he'd been hosting a podcast for, like, I think probably about 10 years at that point. And so I'm like, why do you say that? Because I mean, I definitely I love Brad and I respect Brad, and I'm curious, why do you say that? And he said, well, Kev, you love talking with entrepreneurs. And so you would do it just because you love the conversation. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I hear that. And I said, but man, I was like, Brad, the last thing the business world needs is another Me Too podcast. I was like, how do we separate this thing apart if I were to do it? And he's like, Kev, you are going to talk with entrepreneurs about their most valuable relationships. And I was like, oh man, that sounds good. I mean, I had been the relationship guy for years already. And so this is like really feeling in alignment for me. And what now was not even on my radar now is like, wait a minute, there might be something here. And I'm starting to get jazzed about this. And and he's like, and the cool thing is, Kev, he's like, you're going to do this just because you love doing it, and you're not going to mess it all up trying to figure out how to monetize it. But yet you will, and it'll just happen organically for you, just like it has for me. And he has been totally right about that. I went home from San Diego, and the next week I just started reaching out to my entrepreneur friends. And I just told them, I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this podcast. It's going to be called $1 Million Relationships. And would you be willing to hop on Zoom and just have a conversation with me, and we'll just talk about your most valuable relationships in your life and in your business that have, and people were like, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And the first, I don't know how many episodes were all friends of mine that I already knew, but it was such an amazing experience, Steve. And they, even though these were friends that I'd known, who are entrepreneurs, we didn't have a conversation like this before. And in fact, so many of them would tell me, you know what, Kevin, nobody has ever asked me this question about relationships before. Nobody's ever asked me this. And so I've never told this story, or I've never shared this. And for some of them, it was incredibly emotional as they shared their stories too and stuff. I mean, I just had a guy, I don't know, within the last month, that told me one of the biggest things that came from one of his relationships was that he stopped a guy from taking his own life. And I was just like, wow. And he got so emotional as he was sharing that story of how that came to be and how that happened, and how he's just like, I'm so grateful that he's still here with us. And I'm like, man, what a story. And and so you're right, that I mean, I've had such an amazing experience hosting this podcast over the last 3 years. And like it's easy to say, well, everybody should do a podcast. And wouldn't that be great? But the reality is people who care about relationships for sure should definitely be doing a podcast because you're going to build
Yeah,
relationships.
yes,
And
that's
so,
exactly it.
yeah,
You nailed it. That's it.
yeah, yeah. So, for anybody that's listening to this, and they're just like, man, Kev, I just really love Steve. I love who he is. I love how he shows up, and maybe they'd like to check out your podcast. Maybe they were curious by some of the other stuff you shared and like to find out more about the work you guys are doing and stuff. How can they find you? Any resources, any websites we can share with them?
Yeah, you can search "Doing Business with a Servant's Heart" on
Okay.
Google. We pop up first. It's a blue logo with a microphone. You'll see it. It'll say doing. You could do that, or email me. I do a free business mentoring, and I do free podcast workshop. If you're a podcast host or thinking about a podcast, I do it every month. It's next October 22nd is the next one. But email me at Steve R 1961 at Gmail. Again, Steve R 1961 at Gmail, and say I'm interested in your podcast workshop or business mentoring, and I'll get you all the information and get you set up.
Awesome. Awesome. Any last thing that you feel led to share, Steve, before we call it a wrap?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for being such a great host. This is a phenomenal show, and a much needed show because the world has changed when we're losing relationships. COVID didn't help when we're isolated,
Yeah.
and now everybody's fearful. But people come to me all the time. I'm an introvert. How do I build relationships? How do I do like you and Kevin? Well, I've got a principle. It's called the ASLA principle. ASLA. Ask, shut up, listen or active listen,
Mhm.
and ask again. And people go, shut up and listen. Well, shut up. I'm probably listening. No, let's just go to a Zoom room. And you got 4, 5, 10 people there, and somebody's screen goes black. Now, it might be a legitimate reason. I'm not judging. They might have gone to the bathroom, there's a door, but did they listen what the person said?
Mhm.
Probably not. So
Yeah.
take that same philosophy when you're talking to people in person, on Zoom, at a networking event, whatever it may be, ask, shut up, listen, and ask. Keep asking questions and be an active listener. You'll know all about somebody in 5 or 10 minutes, and they're going to love you because you know what? You're going to be able to serve them.
Yeah. 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 That is really, really powerful. And you're right. You know what's really cool is I've I've just been this naturally inquisitive and curious person my entire life. Sometimes I irk my wife because I ask so many questions all the time, and uh, and but it's also just it's come to be such a valuable trait when talking with entrepreneurs. And because I'm just naturally and genuinely curious. And so I ask a lot of questions. And then, like you said, I just listen and not listening as we wait impatiently for our turn to talk, but just listen for listening's sake so that we can better understand who we're talking about, how we can better get to know them, find out what they're dealing with, all of this kind of stuff. And then asking more questions based on what they just shared with us and getting more clarity. And I've just been doing that for years just because, like I said, I'm this naturally curious and inquisitive person. But what's I've found is that just by showing up that way, we give people this gift that they so seldom get to receive, which is this gift of being seen, heard, and understood. And everybody wants to talk about what they do, and the reality is nobody cares about what we do, but they certainly care about how they feel when they're with us, when they're in our presence, when we are being completely present for them. and they will not forget that feeling that they felt when they're around us like that. They're going to remember that for years. I mean,
Oh,
I have interviewed
wow.
people for the podcast that this one guy, Nick, I interviewed him. He was early on in the podcast, and on the interview, he shared about this conversation that he and I had had like 8 years before. We were in this guy's mastermind group, Kevin Nations, and Kevin used to hold his mastermind group down in Vegas, in Henderson, actually, and and Nick starts reminding me of the. He's like, Kevin. He's like, I'll never forget that conversation that you and I had at Kevin's mastermind group at that one place, and I remembered the place, but I did not remember at all the conversation that Nick and I had. But he did. He's like, I will never forget it, and here's why. And I'm just like,
Yes.
wow, all these years later, and he totally remembers that experience, because he felt seen, heard, and understood. That's why he remembered that. And so, and the thing is we want to talk about what we do. Trust me, you give people the gift of being seen, heard, and understood. They're going to want to know about what you do. Trust me.
They're
They're
going
going to
to
want to
ask
know
you.
more about
Absolutely.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of you telling them, hey, what do you do, by the way? Oh,
Yes.
let me tell you. Here's what I'm looking.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And here's the thing: me and you are not special. I'm going to speak for you. We're not special, but we're special because we take action. And what I mean when me and you are not special, we're no anybody listening. You could do exactly what me and Kevin do. I've helped people do that and come back to me. Oh my God, I just got 5 new guests because I just built relationships. And I asked, hey, do you know any people would be a great guest? And I look at it this way, Kevin. Here's the image. Audience, think about this. When you're 6, 7, 8 years old, it's Christmas Day. You're running to that Christmas tree to open that first present. Kevin, me and you get to do that every day with adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is open gifts with them and find out ways we can give them more gifts.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Steve, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and I am excited to get this out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs. So, thanks so much.
And thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.